car running into a shock absorber and alternator maladies. As day one of the Tour Natal drew to a close, penalties for lateness, while technicians sorted out the alternator problem, saw the reigning Class A7 champions start to slip down the leaderboard. At the end of day one, a comfortable 70-second lead for Habak and Judd over Piazzamuso and Haddon. Class A6 pair Damso and Bonafide were just over 30 seconds behind the Ford pair and 3 minutes clear of the Crobbelaar Burrows VW Golf. Slight shift in direction. Crews now headed along the KwaZulu-Natal south coast for 11 stages in the Park Riney and Umzinto areas on what was going to be a long and hot day. Apart from the conditions, early indications were that one or two of the special stages were going to be a little rough. With a healthy enough overnight lead, there was no need for rally leaders Jan Habak and Douglas Judd to push too hard early in the day. Habak and Judd started day two on a trouble-free note, but there was a gloomier side to the day for Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon in the Ford Escort. The Escort arrived at a service point in Dududu with a cracked sump after hitting a rock, and there were early morning alarm bells in the Piazzamuso camp.
You think that epoxy will close it or not?
I reckon.
Hey?
Yeah, it's a good chance for that. Yeah. We've got the epoxy, they're mixing it up, don't worry.
Yeah. The crack to the top.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think we've got a clearance problem between the sump guard and the sump. And obviously with the vibration and the bumping that it takes, it obviously hit the sump and it's cracked the sump. It's obviously dumped all the oil out, and we had to do the whole stage there which was no oil, and the open section. Luckily, one of the fellow competitors helped me out with a bit of oil, so we'll try and fix it now and see if we can get back up to speed.
After losing time on the opening stage and picking up a small lateness penalty, Piazzamuso and Haddon were now under serious threat from Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide. A little pressure on rally leaders Jan Habak and Douglas Judd also lifted somewhat, with the reigning champions firmly in control of the 42nd Tour Natal. Well, Piazzamuso and Haddon now faced a tactical dilemma: push hard or conserve the car and risk getting caught by Damso and Bonafide. A wrong slot didn't help matters. Looming up behind the Ford pair were Damso and Bonafide in the dealer Team Toyota, and despite a wrong slot, a Class A6 David was getting ready to slay a Class A8 Goliath. Local crew, Craig Trott and Gerhard Bezetenote were not far away from a problem that was to put them out of the running. And behind them, fellow KwaZulu-Natalians Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were on a mission. After starting the day 13th, they were already starting to make inroads into the rest of the field of the Team Total Toyota Corolla. The service park at Dududu and being wheeled into retirement was the Trott Bezetenote Team Total Toyota Conquest.
The brakes started binding on coming out of the stage, and obviously trying to get around to the time control to book in, slipping the clutch. We sorted out the brakes, but now we don't have a clutch. So obviously the clutch plate's gone, so we're spectating from now onwards.
Some picturesque KwaZulu-Natal scenery, but crews were in too much of a hurry to admire the sights. Still holding on to a top 10 place and now in complete control of the Group N category and Class N2 were current N2 champions Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper. They were having a clean run, but on his first KwaZulu-Natal event, N2 rival Kobus Rus was struggling to read the road conditions. Down in Class N1, Rodney Vasaki and Carolyn Swan were also firmly in control of proceedings and had built up a comfortable lead over Mike Halton and Brian Doherty in another Toyota Taz. Behind the two Class N1 cars, the Lawrence-Paisley combination was still on a charge that was turning into a drive of epic proportions, and they'd quickly forced their way into the top 10. Paisley car was still in need of minor repairs here and there, with crews also taking a little strain in the wickedly hot conditions.
Yeah, it's going all right today. We're trying to catch, but I don't know, we'll try and make up a few positions. Yeah, the pace seems to be okay. We are maintaining there. But I don't know, we'll see now. We're going to get a window now, so maybe we won't eat so much dust.
Typical KwaZulu-Natal South Coast sugarcane country, and still dictating the pace at the front of the field were South African champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd in the Sasol VW Golf. There was understandably no heroics from Habak and Judd, who were doing just enough to get the job done. Big crowds converged on spectator points, with the main interest now settled on the scrap for second place between the Piazza Muso Haddon Ford Escort and Damso and Bonafide in the dealer team Toyota Corolla. The multiple South African champions had now edged ahead of the Ford Escort, with the team total car of Lawrence and Paisley now snapping at the heels of the Provolare Burrows and Thunderbolt Harding Class A8 entries. It was a sterling effort from Lawrence and Paisley, but for rally leaders Havoc and Judd, it was simply a question of controlling the pace from the front of the field. The air of complete calm in the Havoc-Judd camp told its own story.
Yeah, at this stage we're just holding stations. The car's running pretty well. Nothing major. It's got a small problem. The diff that's not working 100%, but besides that, I think so far it's going very well for us.
Across the service park in the Toyota camp, the Damso Bonafide car was still being plagued by fuel starvation problems.
I mean, you seem to see the fuel problem seems to be persistent.
Unfortunately it is, and we'll have to do a modification when we get back home and make another design there. This one just is not right. So we're making a boermarker plan here. It's not good enough. So when we get back, we'll redesign it, and hopefully that will solve the problem. At least we know what the problem is. It's half. The difficulty is always to find out what the problem is, but we know what it is, so we just have to fix it.
So what effect does it have?
Well, it just cuts the car dead. It just, the fuel pressure goes down to zero, and the car just stops, and then it picks up again, and we, we'll go again. But it seems they know what's wrong with it now, so I hope it's sorted out.
Apart from the Lawrence Paisley surge through the field, the most impressive drive on the Tour Natal came from Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, who were now completely dominant at the head of the Group N category and Class N2. Reigning Class N1 champions Rodney Fasaki and Carolyn Swan now had a vice-like grip on the class, but there was a sting in the tail, and Piazza Muso and Haddon arrived back at the final service point in a somewhat battle-scarred Ford Escort. An off-road excursion in the previous special stage cost them 2 minutes and finally settled the battle for second place.
We had a really tricky left-hander in the stage there, and we were just very committed. We put new tyres on. I wanted to take the 11-second deficit from Surge, and I gave it maximum attack. Miscalculated the corner, obviously put it sideways, and there was a earth bank probably half a metre high. Went sideways into that and put it on the side. I think most of the time was just really getting the car back on the wheels, and then we just about to go off, and Serge did almost the same thing.
National Championship rallying is tough enough in normal conditions, but the extreme heat and humidity was taking its toll on drivers and co-drivers.
It's incredibly hot inside in this car. I mean, I don't know what the temperature is, but the water is just running out here, and you must take fluid all day just not to dehydrate. But it's still fun.
Into the home stretch on the Tour Natal, with Jan Havoc and Douglas Judd now stroking the Sasol VW Golf home to a predictable victory. It was another thoroughly professional display from the champions, and all that was left was for the crowd to enjoy the traditional Tour Natal water splash on the special stage that runs through the Equipa service park. Their penultimate special stage mishap had relegated Paolo Piazza Muso and Nick Haddon to third place, but it was a stout effort from the pair with their Tour Natal challenge underfunded. Although hampered by the persistent fuel starvation problem, Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide showed that their Class A6 challenge needs to be taken seriously, and second overall and a class win was a good start to their campaign. Barry Crobler and Mike Burrows came up with another trademark steady performance in the Sasol VW Golf, with Group N winners Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper also up there when accolades were handed out. Time penalties for lateness hampered Chad Thunderbolt and Cindy Harding, and the Sasol VW Golf pair were eventually fifth and a minute adrift of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. A great, if slightly predictable, start to the season for Jan Havoc and Doug Judd, and 2 Class A6 cars in the top 5 sets the stage for the rest of the season. The traditional bubbly for Havoc and Judd, the pair developing a taste for the great.
Yeah, there wasn't obviously not the usual amount of intense pressure, but I wouldn't describe it as easy. One's got to still be very careful, and one small mistake can cost you dearly. So although it looked easy, but we still had to work pretty hard for it.